Hey everyone, my name is Eric Raudsep and I'm running for NC House right here in Durham, North Carolina, and I'm running on the Libertarian ticket. Today I wanted to talk to you about something that means a lot to me and I know means a lot to a lot of you. In fact, actually, according to latest poll numbers, 81% of you actually believe exactly what I believe. Term limits. Well, and there's a lot of discussion about why term limits are so important, and it can really be broken down to 7 points. 7 points that make term limits such an important issue. And I'm even going to talk about some of the reasons why people are against term limits, and I understand where you're coming from. But I really believe that the good far outweighs the bad in this situation. The first thing that's so important and why we need term limits is active representation. It goes with the entire idea that new blood brings in new ideas and they're excited to get things done. I mean, look at me. I'm excited to become your representative in the North Carolina State House. It promotes new ideas. Again, it's new blood. Maybe these ideas aren't new, or maybe they're brand new. And if they're not new, maybe we're bringing in new solutions to solve problems that have already been identified. A perfect example is an individual who's sitting in the North Carolina House right now. He's got great ideas, but he's been there for 40 years. Obviously, his methodology of attacking these problems are exactly the same that he has had for a long time. And those ideas, while great, may not be served as well as they could be because the ideas on how to attack them and how to improve upon his ideas are not evolving. Third, reduces opportunities of corruption. You've heard me say it, if you've met me directly, you'll hear me say it over and over again. The length of time that you're in the office opens the door for more corruption. It's just one of those things that makes sense. The longer you've been there, the more the lobbyists want to give you money because you've proven that you have a track record and their money is well spent on you because you're not going anywhere. You have a lock on your district. So they're going to give you more money to make sure that their ideas and their desires, instead of the people who you represent, and it's not exactly great. Let's just be honest. I mean, who's putting you into that office? It's the people. Who should you be representing? The people, not necessarily big corporations. It also reduces short-term political pressure, and I know that's kind of like one of those weird statements, but think about it. A presidency already has term limits. They can only serve 2 terms, a total of 8 years. The second term, they don't have to worry about re-election. All they have to do is worry about working with Congress. Well, if we have term limits for every single elected position, and I'm not saying 8 years as though it's the presidency, I'm actually thinking probably about 12, but that's just the number I'm bantering around right now, and it kind of makes sense. That gives U.S. senators 2 terms, that gives all of our U.S. congressional House members 6 terms, and the same thing with NC House and NC Senate, 6 terms. So that's one of those things that's really great. It gives them that opportunity to really make a difference, but it also gives them a limited time. And when they're in that end phase of their career, they don't have to worry about re-election. They don't have to worry about fundraising. They don't have to worry about all of these things. So it's going to reduce the political pressure. Even as you're ending towards the end of your term, as you're reaching the maximum, you're already going to start thinking about how do I serve the people the best and not necessarily fall to these political pressures from outside groups and all of that. You can actually start representing your people. The next thing is it empowers new arrivals. you see it every single Congress where, or even NC House or NC Senate, they get all the new members onto the steps and they take the pictures together and all of that stuff. Well, a lot of these people are going to have stumbling blocks because they're going to be going up against people that have been there for 20, 30 years who already know how the halls of Congress or how the halls of the NC House or NC Senate work. And they're the big dogs on campus. Well, if we're constantly turning over, there aren't going to be as many big dogs. Especially, like I said, in the NC House, there's an individual who's been there for 40 years. They call him the principal. So this empowers the new people because they're constantly going to be new faces. It dismantles political machines. Like I was saying before, with lobbyists, they're going to be a lot more cautious with their funds because they don't have as many people that have the proven track records. On top of that, it also is going to start to take away those long-term individuals who are sitting there and they're taking up that seat and they're building their machine under them. We don't have to worry about the age of Tammany any longer like New York City did. So that's another thing that's very important when you're starting to look at term limits. The last thing, and I've kind of already brought it up a couple of times already, is reducing lobbyist pressure, or that pressure to fundraise. Because there's going to be constantly new blood coming in, you're going to all of a sudden have a lot of influx of capital. Plus, you're also going to be getting a lot more excitement because you're going to have less contested races because that constant turnover, nobody has the war chests that are building up to astronomical numbers. Well, that's a lot of the pros. One of the biggest negatives is that you're going to be taking away the experience out of the halls. Well, yes and no. Government in itself is going to create the best candidates to be brought forward. Or the parties or individuals. Plus, they still have to go in front of the voters. So you're going to be choosing the best candidate to represent you. The other thing also is by having turnover, a larger amount of turnover, you're going to be increasing the desire to run because you're going to be constantly seeing new faces. You're not going to have individuals that, well, he was in office when I was born and he's still there, so I guess he's just kind of my representative. Well, if you take that away, especially now with so many millennials getting involved in politics, they're getting involved in activist organizations, they're getting involved in parties, they're getting involved in all sorts of different things that are community-based, that are starting from the grassroots. Well, these individuals are going to make the next crop of great politicians. So we've got to make sure that we're encouraging them to move up the ranks and actually seek office themselves. We're going to be constantly infusing those new ideas. So I don't exactly see that it's going to take away political experience, because the people that are going to be seeking office are also getting that education as they progress through the ranks. Another great aspect, or another great point that people who are opposed to term limits come up with, is that it's a democratic process. If I want the same person representing me for 40 years, I'm going to keep voting on these individuals, and I'm going to, if all of a sudden, as a community, we don't want them to represent us any longer, we still have the ballot box to take them out. Well, the longer a politician stays in office, the more likely they're going to be running uncontested races. It's a statistical fact that you can go across throughout the United States. In fact, actually, our representative, who here has been in office for 40 years, has almost 50% of his races uncontested. So, seeing that none of the above is not an option, unfortunately, he's going to get back in. It's kind of one of those catch-22s. So unfortunately, that is also disproven. My 7 points, the 81% of Americans who have that view that term limits are a good idea, we seem to be vindicated. And I hope you agree with me. Again, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to email me. My email is on the webpage, Raudsep, R-A-U-D-S-E-P 2018.com. And also, you can contact us through Facebook. Again, that's Facebook.com/Raudsep, R-A-U-D-S-E-P 2018 /. I hope that you found this informative. I hope that you agree with what I've said. If you don't, I hope that I've changed your mind and opened you up to some new ideas and some new rationales of why term limits are such a great idea. And you have a great weekend. I'll talk to you again next weekend. And this is Eric Raudsep running for NC House saying goodbye. Have a great one. Bye.